The air tasted like rust and wet leaves. Commander Alira Vance crouched beneath a moss-coated ridge, one hand on her blade, the other signaling hold to the scattered shapes around her. Above, the towering canopy of Raker Prime filtered harsh orange sunlight into fractured beams. Movement flickered through the trees, shadows too calculated to be animal. Varkari hunters. Alira didn't breathe. 10 meters ahead, a black armored figure glided through the ferns. Nearly 3 meters tall, armor like flowing obsidian, its jagged head turned, sniffing the air. The Varkari never rushed. They enjoyed the anticipation, the tension before the kill. A muffled cough crackled in her earpiece. Child. One of the newer evacuees, too young for this kind of hell. The Varkari turned. Move now, or mourn later. Alira lunged from cover. Her blade, forged from a crashed escape pod strut, sank into the alien's exposed neck joint. The armor hissed, a flash of superheated blood sprayed her face. She didn't flinch. She drove the blade deeper, twisted, and pulled free. The creature collapsed, convulsing. Alira, down. Mako's voice roared in her comms. She dropped as a pulse bolt seared over her shoulder. Mako returned fire from the ridge with a scavenged plasma carbine, hitting one of the hunters mid-chest. The weapon shrieked in protest, it wasn't built for human hands. Sanvi flanked left, slinging a jury-rigged EMP dart. It crackled through the underbrush and struck another Varkari's knee joint, locking the armor mid-step. The alien toppled, snarling in its guttural tongue. Within seconds, the fight was over. 5 Varkari dead. No human casualties this time. That was rare. Alira wiped blood from her cheek and looked at the youngest among them, barely 13, trembling, clutching a rusted pistol. You held your nerve, she said. That's the first lesson. You're not prey unless you act like it. The kid didn't respond. He just stared at the still twitching corpse near his feet. 30 minutes later, they regrouped in a partially collapsed ruin, stone columns swallowed by vines and shattered statues of alien deities. The temple, like everything on Raker Prime, had once belonged to a species the Varkari hunted into silence. Data cores intact, Sanvi reported, wiping sweat from her brow. Pulled it off the Alpha's belt. Looks like a coal leaderboard? Mako scoffed, sitting beside a crackling ration fire. A scoreboard for genocide. Real noble. Alira took the device, scrolling through the projected holo. Species names. Kill counts. A massive emblem pulsing at the top, the Cull, championship season. One name repeated, Kravex Zulvar, 312 confirmed eliminations. She narrowed her eyes. He's here. Or he's watching. Either way, this isn't a hunt. It's entertainment. Sanvi glanced at the others. They still list humans as functionally extinct. Guess we're not even worth tracking anymore. Perfect, Alira said. Let them keep thinking that. A shriek echoed through the jungle, sharp, avian, unnatural. Weapons raised instantly. The call repeated, then warped mid-tone, into something human. Mako and Sanvi advanced toward the noise. They found the source near a collapsed transport crate. An alien lay pinned beneath a fallen tree, brown-scaled, elongated limbs, gold tech veins pulsing along its chest. Not Varkari. Dravari, maybe. A technician cast. Alira, Mako called. We've got company. Alira approached slowly, blade still in hand. The alien watched her, unmoving. You speak? She asked. The creature nodded faintly. Your tongue, difficult. Not impossible. Its voice was raspy, unnatural, like vocal cords mimicking a frequency they weren't built for. You part of the hunt? I observed, the Dravari said. Not participate. I am, broadcast crew. Data cleaner. I defect. Mako scoffed. They always defect when pinned under 3 tons of tree. Alira crouched beside the creature. Why defect? Why now? Because what they're planning is bigger than sport. The cull isn't just for blood. The Dravari's eyes blinked asynchronously. They are harvesting traits. Genetics. They're dying. You, your kind, are difficult to extinguish. That makes you desirable. A long silence followed. Sanvi leaned in. You're saying we're not being hunted? We're being studied? The Dravari nodded. You disrupt the pattern. They want you back in cages. But first, championship call. Supreme broadcast. Entire galaxy will watch. Their flagship arrives soon. The exaltation. 1 week. Alira stood. Her mind raced. They had been scratching out survival in dirt and caves, while the galaxy cheered every massacre as a sport. Every death was a broadcast. Every bloodied camp a ratings spike. How do we get aboard it? She asked. The Dravari looked up. You don't. She leaned closer. You want to live? Help us do the impossible. That night, the resistance regrouped deep within the bunker ruins. Children were fed, wounded were treated, and the dead buried beneath unmarked stones. Around a makeshift table, Alira, Mako, Sanvi, and the Dravari, who now called himself Juroth, studied the plans. The exaltation will orbit during the championship event, he explained, projecting the ship's silhouette. It has a drop point here, above Raker's North Pole. Hunters board there. You could hide within, or hijack the route. Sanvi rubbed her eyes. Even if we get in, what then? Sabotage? Suicide? No, Alira said quietly. We don't strike. We broadcast. We hijack their signal and show the galaxy the call. The cages. The children. All of it. Mako grunted. You want to fight propaganda with truth? No, she replied. I want to burn their empire down with its own spotlight. The room fell silent. Then Sanvi, voice low, said, then we better start planning a way to get eaten on purpose. Later, as the jungle winds howled, Alira stepped outside, alone, and stared at the stars beyond the canopy. Somewhere up there floated a ship of monsters who thought Earth had died whimpering. She smiled coldly. They were about to find out what happened when you cornered a species too stubborn to die. The stone walls of the underground temple bunker wept with moisture, streaks of old blood staining the cracks between carvings of long-dead gods. Alira Vance paced along the command table, eyes scanning the projected schematics Juroth had laid out. The Varkari flagship, the Exaltation, hung in glowing lines before her like a beast dissected. Juroth stood beside the projection, spindly fingers twitching as he manipulated the interface. Command decks here. Signal relay nested deep, triple shielded. You would need to breach primary access corridors. Dangerous. Very. Mako crossed his arms. What part of this isn't? None, Juroth admitted. Alira kept her arms behind her back, chin tilted in thought. We insert through the hunter intake bay. Infiltrate as cargo. We detonate a false skirmish, let them recover our bodies. Then we come alive inside their belly. Sanvi frowned, brushing dirt from her torn uniform. And then what? We politely ask to use their radio? Alira met her eyes. We plug into the broadcast feed and show the truth, every atrocity they've hidden, every body they turned into a scoreboard. A silence spread. Sanvi stepped forward, voice low. You think a few images will stop this? You think the galaxy cares? Maybe not, Alira said. But it only takes one species to turn against them. One ally. One fire to catch. That's how empires fall. The meeting broke into tasks. Juroth led the tech team, drawing from his Varkari experience to outline their encryption systems. Sanvi reviewed explosives, entry tools, decoy beacons. Mako distributed weapons and silent blades, tools for a war with no margin for sound. Alira found herself alone near the old shrine chamber, candlelight flickering across ruined sculptures. A few survivors had converted the space into a quiet place to mourn. Ash sat in bowls. Names were etched into the stone in shaky hands. She stepped past the altar and knelt before a smaller wall, flat, charred, scarred with 12 names carved by her own knife. Her old unit. Kilo Team. She pressed her fingers to the names, tracing each one slowly. There was no time for grief anymore. Grief got in the way. But tonight, in this moment of firelight and jungle silence, she allowed herself one breath of it. Mako appeared behind her, footsteps heavy, deliberate. "I told you before, this war'll bury you if you let it." "I don't have to let it," she murmured. "It's doing fine on its own." He offered a half-smile. "Still. Thought you should know. One of the new boys, the kid who coughed during the last op. He came to me an hour ago. Said he wants to fight. Said he wants to earn the right to carve names too." She turned. "What did you tell him?" "That you'd make him sweep latrines for a week." Alira exhaled through a laugh. Brief. Dry. "Good answer." Then the comms beeped. Sandi's voice, urgent, "You both better get back. Now." Back in the war room, the air had shifted. Cold. Quiet. Tense. Sanvi stood near the table, hand resting on her sidearm. "We got a spike on the uplink. Someone pinged the surface, Valkyrie drone traffic shifted. They know we're here." Juroth swore in his native tongue. Alira's jaw clenched. "A traitor? Someone leaked our location, yes. Could have been accidental, but," Sanvi gestured to the half-dozen technicians and scouts nearby. "I checked logs. One transmitter activated 22 minutes ago. Manual override." "Whose tag?" Mako asked. Sanvi hesitated. "A scout. Name's Tren. Earthborn, conscripted last cycle. Quiet type." Alira narrowed her eyes. "Where is she?" "Gone. They found her body near the perimeter minefield an hour later. Throat slit. Backpack missing. Tracks led east, toward a known Valkyrie drone route." Alira stared at the corpse, then back at the jungle beyond. "She was working with them," Sanvi said. "No," Alira replied. "She wasn't working with them. She was trading." "For what?" "For safety. Maybe a place off-world. Maybe food. It doesn't matter now. They retrieved what they could, burned the body to prevent tracking, and reinforced the perimeter. But something inside the camp shifted after that. Eyes looked longer. Conversations ended when someone passed by. Paranoia did what the Valkyrie never could, it cracked the quiet unity they had built. Later, back at the bunker, Juroth activated the holomap again. "We must act sooner. The exaltation deploys in 4 days. After that, there is no access. The ship will lock down. No visitors. Only winners. Corpses. Then we move in 3, Alira said. Mako looked up. "We're not ready." "We won't be more ready in 4. Or less dead," Sanvi added. Night fell hard and fast. Alira walked the camp, checking sentries, inspecting gear, trading nods with fighters too tired to speak. She passed a young woman oiling a broken rifle, an old man sharpening a kitchen knife into a spear, 2 children adjusting the straps on their armor. This wasn't an army. It was a memory of one. She returned to her quarters, an old cargo pod buried under stone, and activated a salvaged recorder. Static flickered, then the light steadied. She looked into the lens. "This is Commander Alira Vance. If you're receiving this, it means we failed. Or I did. Either way, what matters is this: we were here. We fought. We refused to vanish like they said we would. If we don't make it, burn this to every system. Let them see." She paused. "And if we do make it, well, then maybe you'll get to see something rare." A grim smile. A predator learning what fear tastes like. She clicked off the feed. At dawn, the camp stirred with intent. Weapons loaded. Final gear packed. The captured Valkyrie dropship sat beneath a camo net of vines and scrap plating. It would carry them to orbit. Alira watched her people, fighters, civilians, survivors, file into the ship in silence. Mako passed her, giving a nod. We die up there, you think we'll get to carve our names on their walls? If we die up there, she said, we'll become the walls. He grinned, teeth yellow and sharp. That's the spirit. Sanvi approached next. You still think one broadcast will change anything? No, Alira said. But it might start something that doesn't stop. Sanvi glanced toward the jungle. Let's go then. Before someone else sells us out. As they stepped into the ship, engines whirring to life, Juroth sealed the ramp behind them. Outside, Raker Prime shrieked and whispered, alive and unforgiving. Inside, humanity prepared to enter the lion's throat, cloaked in silence, armed with truth. And fire. The interior of the Valkyrie dropship stank of blood and melted polymer. Alira lay still beneath a thermal shroud, wedged between Sanvi and Mako inside a row of body bags. The interior bay reeked of dried gore, real or staged, she couldn't tell. Above her, faint tremors rumbled through the floor panels as the vessel left Raker Prime's atmosphere. Zero gravity tugged gently, then faded as the ship's artificial gravity systems kicked in. The hum changed. Pitch deepened. They were docking. In her earpiece, Sanvi's whisper came through faint and dry, one shot. One corridor. Then we're either ghosts, or ashes. Alira didn't answer. Her pulse was steady. Breathing shallow. The ship shuddered as the clamps locked and hissed open. A Valkyrie voice barked in its native tongue. Then heavy steps. Alira felt the body bag she was in get lifted, rough, mechanical grip. She counted 6 seconds as she was moved. Then her world tilted as she was dropped onto a cold slab. She waited. Footsteps receded. Silence stretched. She activated her neural implant with a flick of thought. The bag hissed open. Alira emerged into a dim chamber of steel and bone. Trophy skulls hung from polished racks, each carved with kill tallies. Armor displays lined the walls, beasts she didn't recognize, some with human-like faces. A twisted museum of conquest. Sanvi rolled out beside her, scanning. Clear. The others emerged, rifles silent, blades drawn. Juroth moved to a console, his thin fingers gliding across symbols with practiced precision. We're 3 decks below the signal relay, he said. Security light, non-combat zone. But once we tap the feed, they'll know. Mako snorted. Then let's make sure they hear us loud and ugly. They advanced through narrow maintenance shafts, bypassing main corridors lined with patrolling elites. Alira led, every step measured. The deeper they went, the more obscene the decor became, wall panels embossed with battles, fields of impaled prisoners etched in gold. Each chamber a celebration of someone else's extinction. Juroth halted at a junction. We're close. Beyond this hatch is the auxiliary core. From there, I can inject the footage into the broadcast feed. Do it fast, Alira said. We won't get another chance. They entered a room pulsing with blue light, hollow screens orbiting a central node. Juroth plugged in a storage core, loading human footage, burned villages, hunted children, camps of skeletal survivors, all filmed by hidden cameras across dozens of coals. Alira stood at the edge of the room, rifle raised. Then the door slammed shut. Red lights strobed. Sirens howled. Juroth froze. Someone activated a lock override. External. From inside the ship. Alira's gut turned. Sanvi, bypass. I'm trying. Then the voice came. Cold. Crisp. Confident. Kilo team. Alira Vance. We've been watching you. A wall screen activated. Kravex Zulvar stood tall and coiled in regal black armor. Behind him, ornate banners of hunted species flapped in synthetic wind. I must admit, you humans are persistent vermin. But clever. I admire that. Alira stepped forward. You're not going to stop us. He tilted his head. Oh, but I already have. The override came from someone on your team. You thought betrayal was your invention? Mako raised his rifle. Name them. A figure stepped from the shadows near the relay's threshold. It was Lyra, one of the new scouts. Barely 20. The same one Alira had trained personally. I'm sorry, Lyra said, not meeting her eyes. They offered us peace. A place on another world. No more hiding. No more fighting. You think they'll spare you? Alira asked, voice flat. They said I could live, Lyra whispered. Alira lowered her rifle. Then live with this. She activated her neural signal again. A second data core in her belt lit up and broadcast its contents, not the footage, but the override virus Juroth had quietly slipped her 2 days ago, hidden in a decoy core. The power flickered. Juroth smiled, teeth sharp. You were the bait. She was the dagger. The door opened. Gunfire erupted. Mako charged through the corridor as alarms rang. Sanvi and Alira covered the flank. Alira fired 3 shots into a Varkari patrol, 2 center mass, 1 head. She didn't stop to watch them fall. Juroth yelled over the comms. Signal feed is broadcasting. 67 active systems tuned in. It's spreading. Sanvi ducked behind a pillar as an explosion shook the floor. Make it last. Alira took point again. Bridge is 2 levels up. Juroth, find us a route. Cargo lifts ahead, he replied. But fast response teams are inbound. Heavy. Mako paused. Someone's gotta slow him. No, Alira grabbed his vest. Not you. He smiled faintly. It's always me. Before she could stop him, he peeled off, slammed the override on the bulkhead, and disappeared into the smoke. The last thing he said, soft, over the comms. We're not prey. We're the reckoning. Then silence. The lift carried Alira, Sanvi, and Juroth to the upper deck. Fires burned behind them. Explosions echoed below. They burst into the broadcast chamber, white, blinding, sacred. Dozens of Varkari nobles sat watching, observing, feeding on the spectacle. They turned as Alira stepped onto the stage. The footage continued to stream behind her, bodies, screams, children in cages. She looked directly into the broadcast lens. I'm Commander Alira Vance of Earth. You thought we were extinct. You erased us from your records, your charts, your histories. You turned our deaths into your entertainment. She raised her rifle. Pointed it at the banners above. And we're still here. She fired. The banners ignited. The chamber filled with smoke. Behind her, the galaxy watched in silence. Then, across distant systems, on Varkari-controlled worlds, on neutral planets, on distant colonies, alien voices began to speak. Not in support. In disgust. Far below, on Raker Prime, survivors huddled around makeshift screens, watching the feed stream through stolen relays. Children stared. Old soldiers cried. And somewhere in deep space, a Varkari slaver ship received a message from its own crew. We're not part of this anymore. In his private chamber, Kravex Zulvar stood alone. The banners were gone. The silence weighed heavier than any death. He watched Alira's final transmission again, slowly, eyes narrow. They turned the hunt on us. Alira sat in silence, her back against the carbon glass wall of the broadcast chamber. Blood streaked her arm, not all of it hers. The fire still smoldered behind her where the Varkari banners had once flown, symbols of dominance reduced to drifting ash. The galaxy had seen it. More than they'd dared hope. Juroth worked silently at the comms terminal, the blue light reflecting off his elongated features. His fingers moved quickly, but without urgency now. The broadcast was still out there, duplicated, seeded, and scattered across every known relay. It couldn't be erased. Sanvi stood at the shattered viewport, watching Raker Prime spin slowly beneath them. Her armor was cracked across one side, the shoulder soaked in drying plasma. Still, she hadn't sat down. She hadn't spoken since they lost Mako. Alira finally broke the silence. How much of the galaxy saw it? Juroth answered without turning. Enough to fracture the illusion. 39 systems began open discussions within the first 2 hours. 5 Varkari ally states initiated internal investigations. 3 revolts already reported. Sanvi glanced over. You think a few angry speeches will stop them? No, Alira said. But they're no longer gods. And that's the first crack. The corridors outside the chamber remained eerily quiet. No new waves of hunters. No alarms. Just the low hum of power beneath their boots. The nobles retreated, Juroth said. They underestimated the effect. Some have shut down their house channels. One killed himself, on air. Alira didn't blink. Guilt? Disgrace, Juroth replied. They built an empire of cruelty. Being exposed, it's a greater wound than any blade. Footsteps echoed beyond the bulkhead. Sanvi raised her weapon. A moment later, a single figure entered, unarmed. Tall, armored in ceremonial black trimmed with silver. Kravex. He didn't reach for a weapon. He didn't bark an order. He just walked to the center of the chamber and looked at Alira, as if seeing her for the first time. You've damaged more than our ship, he said quietly. You've altered perception. That is, a rare victory. Alira stood, slowly. Is that what this is to you? Perception? He tilted his head. Perception is everything. Control it, and you shape action. Without it, an empire rots from within. Sanvi aimed her rifle at him. Then rot. Kravex didn't flinch. I came to speak. Not to die. Not today. You're standing in the ashes of your own broadcast, Alira said. If you're not here to fight, talk fast. He nodded once, folding his hands behind his back. You've won a battle. But war is motion. The Council will try to bury this. Blame rogue elements. Frame it as human propaganda. They'll adapt. Alira stepped closer. Let them. They can adapt to fire. Or get burned. For the first time, his expression shifted, subtle, uncertain. You don't want to rule, he said. You want vengeance. No, she replied. I want peace. But I've accepted it won't come gently. Kravex turned his gaze to the viewport. Do you know what scares them? He asked. Not your weapons. Not even your survival. It's that you made others watch. You forced them to see what we are. You made them question whether they're complicit. Are they? He looked at her. Yes. And what about you? He didn't answer. When he finally left, they let him go. Sanvi stared after him. We should have killed him. Alira shook her head. Dead martyrs are louder than live cowards. He's more useful walking through the ruins of his legacy. Sanvi lowered her rifle. I don't like it. You weren't supposed to. 3 hours later, the Resistance ship Breakwater rendezvoused with the Exaltation. It wasn't built for orbital dockings, just a retrofitted mining barge with atmospheric thrusters, but it held. The remaining survivors boarded. Children, medics, techs. No one cheered. This wasn't a triumph. Mako was gone. Dozens had died on Raker during the push to the dropship. Civilians caught in Varkari retaliation. Fires still burned in the jungle. Every gain had a price. As the ship pulled away, Alira stood on the command deck, watching the Exaltation shrink behind them. A ruined monument. Juroth approached her side. What now? Alira stared out at the stars. Now we scatter the truth. To every world. Every colony. Every satellite they forgot to censor. And after? We become the infection, she said. Every time they think they've silenced the story, it reappears. Every time they speak of power, we remind them of what they did. Sandy joined them, arms crossed. And what if they strike back harder? Wipe us out completely? Alira gave her a tired smile. Then we make sure they remember what it cost them. Later, in the small briefing chamber of Breakwater, Alira addressed the survivors. No medals. No speeches. No promises. You all know what we face. We struck the first match. But fire spreads. And if we die in it, so be it. She let the silence settle. We are not prey. We never were. Around her, heads lifted. No matter what they show, no matter what they claim, we're still here. And that means everything. Juroth recorded the speech and transmitted it in bursts, encrypted fragments shot toward various systems. They knew most would be blocked or traced. But some would slip through. Enough always did. Hours later, in a market on a neutral trade moon, a vendor watched a strange feed flicker across a dusty screen. A jungle planet. Human voices. Alien screams. Children running beneath burning skies. A woman, bloodied and fierce, standing in a broadcast chamber and saying, "We're not extinct. We remember. And we're coming." The vendor didn't understand the language. But the message was clear. And behind him, a small crowd had already started to gather.